Welcome back, homies! As soon as you finish the reclamation mission, you're going to discover that you won't be able to make further progress without earning respect, and that we are indeed officially in the game. No more tutorials, the backstory of becoming a member of the Saints is done. We are now ready to set out into the gritty world of Stillwater and earn street cred for the Saints. So you might be wondering, which activity should I try first? Well, you have a decent pick of stuff to do, and if you don't like an activity, you can always try something else. However, we're going for a 100% run of the game, so the series of activity walkthroughs I do will be what I believe to be the best route to take. And so without further ado, the first activities you should absolutely start immediately before anything else are Hitman and Chopshop. These two activities are unique from every other activity in the game because once you start them, they never end until you complete them. The game continues as normal. There's no way to lose, there's no way to quit. It just becomes a persistent part of the game itself, and you won't actually know anything's different. So the best thing to do is to start them as soon as possible. Until you've explored a neighborhood, every store and activity will be hidden, but here are the locations you need to go to. Just travel to each of them, start them up, and get ready for the most exciting gameplay of your life. Starting with Hitman.
This is for you. If you kill him.
Contained inside are the specifics about a group of men who have wronged my family.
And I'll pay you for each one you can take out. That's straight with you?
Okay, so we're given a list of people to kill. On that list, we're given a photograph of what they look like, where they can be located, and, this is very important, the weapon we have to kill them with. The basic idea is we drive around the district, scope it out until the target spawns, and kill them with the required weapon. Sounds easy enough, right? Within the activities menu is this helpful option that lets you select a target to add to your HUD. You have to have this on in order to see your target on the minimap, but it's only here for visual aid. If you don't have a target selected, you can still kill them and have it count, so long as you meet the requirements on which gun they want you to use. In fact, if you are in another activity or are in the middle of a mission, your kill will still count. So again, you can see why it's a really good idea to start these as soon as they're available to you. But here's the thing about Hitman. It's the worst activity in the entire series. I mean, it sounds fun. In a crime simulation game, I love the idea of being a hitman. I love the sketchy dossier you receive so that you know which areas to stalk out, who to hunt, how the client wants the target to die. It sounds so exciting. How could this possibly be so terrible? 3 words. Spawning system, bitch. The locations they give you don't matter. Unlike the weapons, which are a requirement for the hit, you don't actually have to be in the district they tell you to go to in order for the hit to count. Now, don't get too excited, that is literally the only break you get in this activity, and they don't even tell you that. In fact, the reality of it is they are giving you instructions that are misinformative and actually diminishes the odds of you finding a target. There's no guarantee that if you go to these locations, the target you're looking for will spawn. Yes, Charles could spawn in the suburbs, or he actually might be over here, but you're searching an area the game chose not to spawn him in because the game told you to look for him there. You could be waiting hours, and I'm not talking in-game hours, I mean literal hours for a target to spawn in one of these areas, and they just never do. Even when it makes sense, like a jogger on his morning routine around his apartment complex, he could just not show up that day, or the next day. Or the next day, or the next day, until you lose your fucking mind as it turns out 3 of these targets have a 0% chance of ever spawning in the area they tell you to look in. And then when you finally give up because this entire thing is fucking stupid, he'll finally spawn in a completely different district. Except, uh-oh, you don't have the right weapon. And that's the real salt in the wound with this activity. When you don't have the right weapon, it always feels like that's when the spawning system decides to spawn these pets. It's like the game is straight up mocking you. No, even when you do have the right weapon, look at this motherfucker despawn. Look at it. Is that not the biggest pile of bullshit you've ever seen? Where did he go? Where the fuck did he fucking go? So the entire thing is insane. It's a horrible way to earn respect, a horrible way to earn money. If you deliberately focus on trying to complete this activity, you'd be wasting hours of your life driving around Stillwater. I'm serious. In a few of my playthroughs, I've solely focused on just completing Hitman, and the quickest time was about 2.5 hours. But here's the silver lining. This activity, without a doubt, has the greatest unlocks in the game. Like seriously, strategically it actually might be better to grind this activity for them. It kind of reminds me of the Mega Blaster Easter egg in Dead Rising. Pure torture, but it's worth it? So let's just get it over with. As random as this bullshit is, there is a strategy to it. There's 2 taxi services you can call on your cell phone, Eagle Line Yellow and TNA taxis. For a fee, you can summon a taxi that will allow you to fast travel to any store on the map. This also advances the in-game time by 1 to 3 hours depending on the distance, and I think that basically reshuffles the deck, so to speak, and you can keep shuffling it until the spawning system spits out a target. So what I would do if a pet isn't spawning is use a cab to advance the in-game time, hijack the taxi, drive around the block. If there's no sign of them within the block, call in another taxi, drive to the other side of the map, advance the time, drive around the block, rinse, repeat. This is ultimately the best strategy you have for like 90% of the targets, but thankfully there are a few targets that can be summoned. Jackie is an ambulance driver, so you can dial 911 and she'll drive in to refill your HP. She needs to be killed with the Vice 9, which we should already have from the tutorial, so you can get her out of the way immediately. John and Bill are summoned through a high police notoriety level. The best way to go about this is to take shelter in your safe house and keep killing everyone outside. When the FBI get here, that's usually when Bill shows up. It's also a good idea to run outside and store 2 FBI SUVs in your garage. We'll be using them for something later. Once we hit the maximum notoriety level, a chopper will spawn in the sky with the sniper. That's John. Just snipe him right back, and yeah, I think that's it. 3 out of 24 targets can be summoned. Alright, here's the redeeming factor of Hitman. The unlocks are amazing. You get 4 weapons added to your crib, ammo included. In fact, you'll never need to pay money for weapons or ammo again. You're pretty much set for the rest of the game. Completing Airport gives you a gold GDHC 50 caliber. It has 100% accuracy and is an instant kill even if you shoot someone in the foot at long range. Incredibly powerful and sexy as fuck. Chinatown gives you a Platinum AS-12 Riot shotgun, and Mr. Wong is a homie. The Platinum AS-12 Riot does significantly more damage than the standard one you buy at Friendly Fire, and it is arguably my favorite shotgun in any game ever. The sound effect is crunchy and so satisfying. Just listen. Downtown gives you a Platinum T3K Urban. This actually might be the most useful of the bunch, as there's a lot of situations that require you to do damage to a moving vehicle in order for them to stop the car, and you will absolutely appreciate the double damage this gun gives you. And for completing all the Hitman activities, you get a discount on all weapon purchases, and a Platinum RPG. I believe at one point this was supposed to be like the laser RPG from Saints Row 2, where you can control the rocket after you fire it, but like most of the Saints Row 1 cut content, the concept was abandoned and then later reused in the sequel. Instead, we just have a sexy looking RPG that does more damage than the normal one. Interestingly enough, the code to make the laser-guided rockets work is still in the game and work just fine. In fact, it's exactly like Saints Row 2, so it's a bit of a mystery why this feature was ever removed. Looking back at this old GamePro preview from 2005, it still mentions this so-called heat-seeking missile launcher as one of the more advanced weapons, and if we really go back, you can see that the rocket launcher had a lock-on capability as early as the PS2 build of Bling Bling. But speaking of cut content, did you know that at one point Hitman was actually awesome? It wasn't a persistent activity where you had to find pedestrians at random, but a normal 8-level activity with different scripted missions for each target. One of the airport missions placed you on the roof of the hotel with presumably a sniper rifle, and the target would have been out here somewhere. There would have been other pedestrians placed around here, guards, witnesses, even a motorcade. As the levels progressed, you would have to kill more targets in more elaborate ways. You would have gotten a bonus if you used the weapon they told you to use, but it wasn't a requirement. You would have gotten a bonus if you did a drive-by or a hit and run. Each hit had a time limit, and there were even some stealth elements involved because you would have to eliminate any witnesses if caught. And if the cops were after you, you'd have to lose them first. In fact, there's a ton of unused audio to go with these scenarios. Let's take a listen to a few of them now.
I told him I'd stay away from his daughter. What more does he want from me? Tell Marcel he can suck my dick.
Listen, I'll double your money to go kill that bitch instead.
That double-crossing Chinaman knew the deal.
Deborah can suck my dick!
I don't care who sent you, just fuck off! Where the hell's my bodyguards? Where's my protection?
Don't worry, he ain't gonna touch you. I'll take care of this, comrade.
Back away from the witness.
And you would even have your clients phone in information for you.
What am I paying you for? Lose the cops.
No one who saw you can live.
Too many people saw that shit. If you want to get your money, it looks like you gotta up the body count.
As you heard, there was a lot more personality to this activity, and each hit had some kind of backstory to them. A lot of them involving the sexual adventures of Mr. Wong's family. But even the areas told a story, like this spot where you had to make a hit during what could have been a drug deal, a concept they'll later reuse in the main story. In fact, one of the hits even took place inside Kingdom Come Records, where we have access to an interior that's only ever seen for a brief second in a cutscene, and then the entire building itself is destroyed and permanently changed for the rest of the game. So this activity is probably older than the story itself. In addition to this, there are multiple areas that put you in buildings that have no interiors at all, but it suggests at one point there were. Some of these spots are more fleshed out than others, like it's clear there were supposed to be people placed on these stoops with guards out front. There's an entire navigation path for a guard that quite clearly had him walk around the outside of the strip club. I even went ahead and placed a bunch of NPCs out here to flesh out what this could have looked like, and they're all just standing out here like lobotomized NPCs in a default idle animation loop as expected, but this one NPC is in a unique, never-seen sitting animation. I did not give the NPC any special instructions other than to spawn at the location where a Hitman mark would have been, and evidently these chairs were moved in the final build, and the target would have been sitting in one of them. The Vice Kings and Los Carnales activities seemed like it made the most progress, as going to each spawning location gives you a coherent idea of what they were planning with each level, while Westside Roller seems like it has the most early version of Hitman. None of the spawning locations make sense, and they heavily overlap with the Los Carnales areas. Like while Los Carnales had the airport Hitman activities near the hotel, Westside Rollers also had many spots near the hotel. Instead of the roof, they placed you on a tree. Thankfully, we can turn the tree leaves off with the console to see what this could have looked like, but it begs the question, what the hell was going on here? Numerous spots just drop you right out of the sky. One theory I have is that this activity was built using an early version of Stillwater, and that could be why we're being placed up here so high. No idea, but it's fascinating nonetheless. Also, I have to say, these areas are beautiful. Saints Row 2 Stillwater is without a doubt the best map in the series, and it gets well-deserved praise. But Saints Row 1 often gets overlooked because of its flat, maze-like design at times, and frankly just a lot of barren space that goes unused. The old Hitman did a fantastic job designing the hits around aesthetically pleasing areas. It's actually a shame because this cut version could have really highlighted areas of the map that don't get much attention. Just complete wasted potential. Instead, we get an activity so bad it was actually banned in the German and Japanese versions of the game. Okay, that might actually have to do more with the country's censorship laws, but that's understandable because this activity really is a crime against humanity that is arguably worse than Auschwitz and the raping of Nanking combined. But for as much flack as I'm giving Hitman, the rewards are too awesome. The real worst activity, in spirit, is Chopshop. Alright, I'm not going to spend as much time on Chopshop as I did with Hitman. They're two sides of the same coin, but this one is far easier. You mostly have to find cars that are already fairly common, maybe take them to rim jobs, and modify them slightly. Some cars you can summon because they're gang cars, and hell, we've already driven 9 of them so far. Just store them in your garage and take care of them later. Like Hitman, you can specify a car to appear on your minimap. Really, it's a much easier version of Hitman, and yet it's arguably worse. There's no rush with this activity. Unlike Hitman, these rewards are horrible. Just plain boring. It inherits everything that's awful about Hitman, makes things slightly easier, and rewards you with garbage. Terrible way to earn money, terrible way to earn respect. In every playthrough I have done, this was always the final activity to complete for 100%, just mostly because it's boring, and the rewards are what? Pimped out gang cars? I mean, they look cool, but they're kind of slow, and I never really felt like they were worth it. And what's the big major reward you get for completing all of them? Oh, a discount on car repairs. Yay. Unlike Hitman, which has all these interesting hidden details about what kind of activity it could have been, Chopshop doesn't really have interesting lore. It truly is the worst in spirit. but I'll use this as an opportunity to explore a cut store. Foreign Power is a dealership where you can buy expensive cars. In fact, unless you're lucky with the spawning system, you'll need to use it to get a few cars for Chopshop. There's 3 locations, but at one point there would have only been 2, and the remaining location would have instead been a used car dealership that sold a bunch of shitty cars. It was called No VIN Used Cars, and you can even still hear commercials for it in the final game.
Vinny here for No VIN Used Cars, where the only VIN at No VIN is me, Vinny. Hey, we're having a big friggin' sale. Come on down. We got $2 balloons, $5 hot dogs. Hey, get your picture taken with Bigfoot, I don't know. And here's how it works. You come in, you give me money, I give you a car, you drive away, and I don't ever want to see you again.
Hey, Vinny, don't forget to tell him about the discount.
I was just getting to that.
When these commercials play, they trigger a discount for the stores. However, the code for this discount is only used in the pre-release build. They pretty much wipe the existence of the store clean in the retail build, except for the commercials. It's unclear why they cut the store. I can only imagine it was exclusively used as a joke to contrast the role Foreign Power played in providing the player with fast, luxury sports cars, and maybe that even confused some playtesters as to why there was such a useless store in the game, even though I think it's a pretty funny joke that adds more oddities to the world of Stillwater. But I guess it just wasn't meant to be. So in conclusion, these activities really just boil down to luck. They're by no means difficult, it's just whether or not you had a day that your intended target or vehicle spawned. For your own sanity, it's probably best not to grind these out yet. I really only suggest starting these in case you get some accidental Hitman kills, or so that you have an idea of what kind of cars and targets you should be looking out for. Besides, you're not going to have the money to buy all those weapons and car mods required for the job. So while I suggest you start these as soon as possible, the real first activity you should play is insurance fraud. So join me next time when we'll risk our lives for an out-of-court settlement. See you then!